Good morning. Alex said in his opening today, let's make procurement awesome by working together to do the right thing for the company, of course, but for also the greater purpose of improving people's lives. So in this context, let us reimagine supplier risk management. How can we, this purchasing power in this audience, innovate and transform from reactive, passive management of supply risk, and instead move to increased transparency, collaboration, authenticity, trusted relationship, and yes, achieve the greater purpose by being compliant, by supporting ethical businesses, and meeting our company's sustainability goals. It's not a dream, it's possible. Reimagine your day when you can act instead of react. Reimagine a world where instead of fearing the regulations and the regulators, you can be confident of your own and your supplier's compliance record. You can engage better and run your business with a purpose, keep your business protected and your brand protected every day and with every action. Last year, right here, we opened to you the possibility of embedding supply risk management into your day-to-day procurement processes. We're happy to announce that we released SAP Ariba Supplier Risk in Market in Q4 of last year. And we are already managing and monitoring over 10,000 companies on behalf of our customers. We are processing about 1 million incidents a day, matching it to bring relevant incidents to our customers to better understand their supply base. We have had many companies already adopting to integrate supply risk management within their procurement processes. I'm really pleased today to invite on stage a company that is on this journey to reimagine supply risk management. Please welcome from Nielsen, Director of Global Supply Chain Risk Management and Analytics, Mr. James Edward Johnson. Welcome, James. Good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
James has a long history and experience in law, governance, finance, and analytics. Today, James oversees at Nielsen the global third-party risk management process, including environment, social, and governance, in addition to the standard transactional and financial risks. James, Nielsen is one of the early customers on the supplier risk product. Please, can you share what triggered this journey to to reimagine supplier risk management in your company?
Well, Padmini, even before I came to Nielsen, I actually started my career in corporate governance as a lawyer in the telecom industry. And in that company, the same vendors that had brought down Enron and WorldCom had taken our company into bankruptcy. That was one side of the supplier risk problem that I've seen. Then I went to the other side, and I worked in a hospital in finance. There, we had a group purchasing organization that gave us this illusion that there was no supplier risk. But of course, the risk was still there. It was just funneled through a single third party. Now, at Nielsen, I think we do a great job. We're great with data, but we're not necessarily great with supplier data. That's not our focus. And like many companies, we become reactive to questions from legal, from finance, from audit. And as a result, we end up focusing on the risks that last caused us problems. We come up with solutions, but these solutions get attached onto one another, and we create this Frankenstein's monster of an answer. It's not connected, it's not very useful, and it's slow.
Of course, the roadblocks to classic effective supply risk management, it's not useful data, poor data quality, and it is about disconnected processes, and finally, one-size-fits-all strategy. Typically, most customers that I've talked to said, yes, we send out questionnaires to our suppliers, and we send them out way too often, and it's causing supplier fatigue and fatigue for ourselves. So, James, let's see how we've changed that with the supplier risk product, shall we, that you're just implementing. So I'm going to take on the role of Mary Beth, who is the category manager, and in my company, I am managing services categories today. So as soon as I come into SAP Ariba, I see the supplier risk dashboard Out of the 653 suppliers that I care about, I see that 7 of them are already having regulatory and legal high-risk issues. And this is actually made possible for me, I'm told, by this SAP Ariba system gathering information from over 500,000 sources and matching all those incidents. And I can also personalize my alert feed. And so I know when some incident is happening, I can engage with my supplier, I can engage with my business and bring them together to solve the problem. But this is not sufficient. In my day-to-day job, I have the role of looking at new supplier requests, where there is concentration risk, and where there is sole source suppliers. And for this purpose, of course, Sudhir showed you the beautiful supplier management dashboard that I have that gives me all of my to-dos for the day. And of course, I do see here that there is a digital gen printing services supplier request that is pending approval. So let me go take a look at that one. In the digital gen printing services request, it looks like the supplier risk system has already presented some screening questions to the business user. So this information allows me to already look at the level of risk that I need to qualify the supplier for. So, of course, printing services, so I have to ask about whether they're going to be sending confidential data. So they have indicated that there is customer data and that is confidential. So let me go quickly to my registration process here. So along with the approval, the standard purchasing and finance approval process, the risk system has added a risk parallel process flow, a preliminary due diligence check. Confidential data, I need to make sure this supplier is the right supplier. So let me start. And here I have my standard questions. Can I do business with this company? Are they on a sanctions check? Are they on a bribery corruption watch list? Are they ethical? Do they have any exposure in adverse media? That's going to bring me down. So James, let me ask you for a second. How do you do this today in your company?
Well, today we can do these checks, of course. We can look at the different data sources, but that's the thing. They're different data sources. They're in different places, and it takes time.
It does take time. So I have this risk tab right inside the supplier profile, the Risk 360 profile here, and which is giving me the information that I need to know. Even as the request has been submitted, I know that there's been some events and incidents in the last 60 days, but it's not too critical. I also know that there has been a compliance due diligence check that's been done, and it's showing me no violations for the last 12 months. I can look at the baseline report and share this with my compliance manager as well if I want to, where they can go in and look at more details on the compliance check. Yeah, there is some wage and wage compliance issues, looks like, so I might need to qualify them for this. So in a single place and in a few minutes, you've got all the data at your fingertips. So of course, probably we don't even need this check, and I probably don't need to do this, right? The system can alert me if there is a compliance check going forward. What do you think, James? Embedded compliance in action.
I think it's great. It'll allow us to do what we're required to do. But instead of checking all of those different sources and dealing with, quite honestly, the tedium of checking out and the errors that sometimes can come with that, we can do it in a way that's efficient and accurate. At Nielsen, we're smart, but we need to focus on the problems that deserve our attention. We don't want to be out searching the internet, running credit checks, checking the Treasury sanctions list. We want to check everything.
Correct.
But we want to be able to allocate our resources efficiently. And without the fragmentation, I think we can do a lot better. We can react every time, and we can react appropriately. And more importantly, we don't need to be asked questions as often. We can start answering the questions before anyone even starts asking them.
Absolutely. So, poor data quality, problem solved, embedded compliance in action. Let's look at what else are we doing today. We released this product in Q4 last year, and we're continuing to innovate on this product. So the first thing is not just in the process of supplier management and supplier lifecycle management, but also making the entire source to pay risk aware. With a single vendor Risk 360, you can see how anybody in the organization can have access to that risk information and incident model at their fingertips. In addition, we're also enabling you to see your own risk assessments and engagement scores in context of your business, in context of that category, of that region, that matrix that Sudhir mentioned. So now, no more disconnected processes, because the Risk 360 gives you not only your internal inherent risk with your engagement assessments, but also the external incidents to take action right away. The next thing we're working on, and so no more disconnected processes, and you make your source to pay risk aware, and Risk 360 is your answer. Configurable risk model is the next big item on this. How do we make all this possible? How do we make this intelligence and the guidance to your users happen? And this is because we have created a risk domain framework that allows you to define according to your business thresholds, according to your risk appetite. It allows you to define for your categories and for your service and for your region that you want to operate in, the type of risk that applies, and therefore guide not only the procurement organization, but also the control function groups that need to have an oversight into this process, as well as the suppliers, to come together and determine the inherent risk, identify the risk, do the right assessments, and mitigate risks. So no more one-size-fits-all strategy. It's actually a risk model tailored to your business. James, what do you think about where we're going?
Well, this can be much more transformational. Right now, we're usually checking things and making an either-or decision. But by configuring the risk model, we can allow small indicators to start to provoke proactive responses. In other words, we'll be much more proactive rather than reactive, and in the details as well as in the big important checks. So when we scale this risk, if there's a low risk, we can make sure we're sharing the information. If we score it to the moderate level based on Nielsen's particular needs, we can then take actions like modifying contracts or doing whatever middle tier actions required. And then, of course, if we have those really high risks, we can look at much more severe responses, like replacing a supplier or working very intensely with a supplier to solve those problems so that they don't affect us in our supply chain. And more importantly, it'll really transform the relationships we have in our company. Nielsen, I won't be a fireman anymore, putting out whatever the problem is.
Right.
I can move to prevention and tackle all of the issues.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at, we had our journey of launching the product, and let me walk you through what we're doing next. I know you're itching to find out because that's where you're going next as well. In December 2016, we delivered risk monitoring and alerting and an incident risk model. And we embedded this into SAP Ariba, as you saw, the embedded compliance process that maps to your supplier management process. In 2017, we are delivering the end-to-end risk management process across your source-to-pay cycle. The matrix-based risk domain framework, where you can tailor by your category and to your risk appetite, the right risk processes. And of course, managing the issues, whether it's low, medium, or high, at the right level, remediating it, and bringing it together into a residual risk model. So you know at any given point in time, what is that risk in your organization, and you can report on it to your management as well. Of course, we continue this journey because this is not all. It's not just about regulations. It is about running an ethical business. It is about bringing that transparency and authenticity to the business. So continuing to expand into environment, social, and operational risks, and optimizing risks across your supply chain is where we see ourselves going, and we would love to have you join in this journey with us. So at Nielsen, what is, in closing, how do you envision this will enable you at Nielsen?
Well, on one hand, this will do even more, better, broader, deeper, more effective risk management than what we've been talking about so far. It'll give us the capabilities to strengthen our relationships with our suppliers and our internal customers, and it'll help us secure our company's bottom line. But for me, and especially when you think about some of the other people who are talking today, and being able to incorporate those data into our risk, I don't want to just make Nielsen a more efficient or more profitable company. I want to do that. But that should only be the first part of my job. With the right tools in place and looking at the breadth of risks that we can with this, I can make the world a better place. I can bring greater integrity, greater transparency into the market. And more personally, I can start to bring improvements into the lives of workers in impoverished communities. I can preserve the earth for future generations. I can stop the practices that breed corruption and honestly just oppress a lot of people in many areas of the world where usually we're just blind what's happening in our supply chain. And to just put it into perspective for me, I think about, when I'm at the end of my life, I don't want my kids to think that I spent all this time at work just building a pile of money and making it a more secure pile of money. I want to know that my children believe that I made the world a better place.
What's more to say? Thank you, James. Thank you for being here. And thank you all.
Thank you.